Well, I think what's happening in San Francisco is the only meaningful thing that's happening in this country, and quite possibly the world.
These people feel that if an atmosphere of love can be established, the world's problems will dissolve. And they do exemplify it in their lives.
Speed, combination of heroin and ephedrine. Stoned, high as on LSD.
These drugs can produce a very, very disturbing psychological and perhaps even physical reaction to the point of a complete break with reality or a psychosis. This hardly squares with my concept of beauty.
Isn't there a danger that there are more people will come here for the kicks and not this
Yes.
religious thing?
The number of those who are coming just for kicks is
For the kicks.
increasing, yes.
I think this economy, the system is dying right now. It's not working. That's why all these people are down here, because it offers some kind of hope.
Now, at this point, we're going to leave Golden Gate Park to go into and take a slight sojourn through the Haight-Ashbury district of San Francisco. This is the new avant-garde left bank area of San Francisco, which has evolved and developed over the past number of years. In fact, I would say that the last 18 months has seen a tremendous increase of the so-called hippies who have invaded and lived in this area. This is a protest against the middle and upper class people of San Francisco, in fact of the area. It is the belief of the people who live within the area that we, the middle class or the upper class, have done a very, very poor job in running our government and our way of life. I don't know if I have enough of these to go around, but I'll do the best I can. Maybe if there are two of you together, just one, if I may. There we are. We're going to be educated now.
Speed, combination of heroin and ephedrine, producing a speedy, powerful high. Split as a leave. Stoned, high as on LSD. Straight, square, conventional, also the feeling immediately after a heroin fix. Teeny bopper is a hippie in early teens. TL is tenderloin. Trip is an LSD experience. Turn on is to commence a far-out experience is to turn on with LSD. Weed is marijuana.
And this is the heart of it now as we turn here onto this street, which is Haight Street. This is the heart of the area. I would say this is confined to approximately a 24-block square area. And not all of them are young, as you can see by looking on the corner here to the right. Print, mint, and a psychedelic bookshop.
The psychedelic shop on Haight Street is the shrine of the hippie movement. Started just over a year ago, it spreads the gospel of a dreamy new utopia based on brotherhood and love and LSD. Ron Thielen, the owner, says LSD has, in hippie language, turned him on, made him aware of the insanity of modern society. He wants to drop out, get back to the simple tribal life of the American Indian. American Indian beads, brooches, along with Hindu and Buddhist charms, serve as tribal badges for hippies. The American Indians are the oldest users of LSD in the world. They've used psychedelic drugs like peyote in their religious ceremonies for hundreds of years. So many hippies see themselves as reincarnated Indians. But the Haight Street of the hippies has become a multicolored carnival where anything goes. "8,000 hippies have invaded Haight-Ashbury in the past year. Maybe 3/4 use drugs regularly. Tablets for a trip cost about 25 shillings, and they're all too easy to get. Arrests for drug taking in Haight-Ashbury have trebled over the past year, though the police plan is not to harass the hippies too much in case they move to other areas. They want to keep them in one easily controllable district. The mayor of San Francisco has already warned against a summer invasion of Haight-Ashbury by 100,000 hippies from all over America, and has stepped up police patrols in the area. But there's little lawlessness among the hippies of Haight-Ashbury. Love is their gospel, and they're even hoping to change Haight Street's name to Love Street. Love is everywhere, stimulated and heightened by doses of LSD, which create a climate of happiness and fellow feeling. The love generated isn't only the spiritual kind. Hippies are colourful and filmable, and the tourists are flocking to Haight-Ashbury, forsaking even the city's topless nightclubs for the hippie street show. Like San Francisco locals, many of the visitors are amazed that these mostly middle-class, well-educated Americans, many of them living on money sent from home, should choose to drop out of the most affluent society in the world to create their own love ghetto. A non-political brotherhood of happy hippies determined to love the establishment into its grave. Haight-Ashbury, once a decaying working-class district, is now on the map as Hippieville, though the tourists may think it more like a breeding ground for unwashed beatniks than a psychedelic Shangri-La. The more serious hippies see it as the basis of a new society.
Well, I think what's happening in San Francisco is the only meaningful thing that's happening in this country, and quite possibly the world. Right now, 60% of the resources of the world are controlled by the United States. We have a kind of militant right-wing mentality in government, which is addicted to symbols and can relate to the world in no other way than by symbols. And the only way to free myself from it is to consciously remove myself from it, consciously drop out of it. I can't just run from it and escape because it's insane. I have to understand the insanity. So then when I go to the country, I'll know why I'm in the country.
But how much is the understanding, is the heightened perception that's necessary here dependent on drugs, LSD, speed?
LSD or psychedelic chemicals are just tools of consciousness. They're like a microscope, like a scientist uses a microscope to enlarge. One takes psychedelic chemicals or studies yoga or meditation and looks inward and try to find out why he's on this earth, what his purpose is, who he is, what he's here for.
Do you see a whole lots of towns all over America full of hippies with this movement?
Something like that, yeah. Only I think people are leaving the cities, they're going out to the country. That's what I'm trying to do, is get out to the country. It has to be done harmoniously, it has to be done gracefully, it has to be done consciously.
And what would
you can't
happen?
Just cut and run. You know?
What would happen in the country? I mean, how do you see life in the country?
I see myself living in the teepee, man, sitting around a fire, growing my own food and making my own clothes. Essentially, you know, that's a simple way to state it, but that's what I see.
And you think that's a real possibility?
Oh, very definitely. It's happening.
Some hippies are even getting back to nature in Haight Street itself. A group of hippies called the Diggers have decided to plant tomatoes round the trees to beautify the street and grow their own food. Diggers are people who share, says their manifesto, and their aim is a society where everything is shared, everything free. They already have one communal farm outside San Francisco, and another is planned in Mexico, where they want to grow marijuana. Most days they provide free food to hungry hippies in Panhandle Park. It's usually leftovers and handouts from local shopkeepers. Besides free food, the diggers have tried to set up communal houses where newly arrived hippies can be taken in. But the city government have closed down overcrowded digger dwellings, and they can't cope with the growing numbers of hippie immigrants. The diggers' emphasis on love and their deliberate naivety are typical of the whole hippie movement. Their free shop looks more like a playground at first sight or a youth club. It's also reminiscent of a welfare centre and an arty-crafty evening class. Here they make sheets and clothes for other hippies who can come and take what they want without paying anything for it. One of the diggers' problems has been finding rooms where they could set up their organisation. The only person to help so far has been Father Leon Harris, an Episcopalian minister. He's lent them a room in his church basement against opposition from his congregation who don't share his sympathy for the hippies.
These people have, that is the real hippies I'm speaking of, not the hangers-on, seem to have a deep yearning for a spiritual thing. They feel that if an atmosphere of love can be established, the world's problems will dissolve. They place very great emphasis upon this indeed, and they do exemplify it in their lives. They are very kindly people, and they show this loving attitude in many ways. For example, very often you see a hippie going down the street offering a flower to anyone who will take it. There was a girl the other day holding a large tray on which there were 25-cent pieces, and she was going from one person to another saying, "Please take some." And they are very helpful to people in need. They share whatever they have with anyone who needs it, and that indicates their loving attitude.
The hippies' celebration of loving attitudes often takes place in a happening, which for them is a beautiful, meaningful event that occurs spontaneously. On most weekends, spontaneously or otherwise, there seems to be a happening on Haight Street, complete with music and joss sticks. Happening may start spontaneously, its end is usually quite predictable. Since love is the hippie code, even the police are treated to it. Don't give them the satisfaction of arresting you, is one of the hippie ground rules on such occasions. world of the hippies certainly seems seductive, full of flowers, colours, music and love. The flower people, the hippies call themselves, as opposed to the plastic generation of square or straight society. The products of the richest, most highly mechanized country on earth. They want to forget it all for the brilliant visions of a simpler life, glimpsed under the influence of drugs. Hippies defend LSD by saying it's non-addictive, and they claim it causes no bodily harm. But the psychiatric wards of San Francisco's General Hospital are getting more and more cases of hippies suffering from bad LSD trips. Dr. Arthur Kafani, director of psychiatric admissions there, emphasized that a bad trip can occur at any time.
What may be beautiful in one moment may, a few seconds thereafter, be rather frightening, almost to the point of a complete break with reality or a psychosis. And this hardly squares with my concept of beauty, or I think anyone else's, to be acutely so frightened that one has lost control of oneself. So there is another side to the coin. I think that people should realize that these drugs are not all a one-way path to, the pot of gold, the end of the rainbow, but it's a rather two-edged sword, in that it can produce a very, very disturbing psychological and perhaps even physical reaction, which could lead to permanent damage in the person's behavior or even the person's thinking.
Are there physical dangers, do you think, to these drugs?
I think that prolonged use of LSD or the psychedelic drugs can produce, and does produce, physical changes in the brain, and as such, which may not be reversible, and which certainly are shown by the person's behavior. And I think there's reason to believe that it does cause brain damage over a prolonged period of time, prolonged usage. I would think 1 or 2 times, no. But yeah, prolonged usage does.
A great many of them definitely do feel that these drugs have opened the way to apprehensions of eternal verities, to religious visions and experiences. Sometimes they felt even coming face to face with God.
But isn't there a danger that there are more people will come here for the kicks and not this
Yes,
religious thing?
there is that great danger, and there are definite signs that the number of those who are coming just for the excitement is increasing. Yes, just for kicks. And sometimes, unfortunately, to exploit the situation for their own purposes. Professional rabble-rousers, people trying to foment riots and drug pushers, so on.
Do you think there's a danger that as this place becomes more popular, as more tourists come in, that this feeling will then be destroyed by commercialism, by all the shops doing good business?
I don't think so, because I think this economy, the system is dying right now. It's in the throes of death. It's not working. That's why all these people are down here. That's why there's so much interest in the Haight-Ashbury, because it offers some kind of hope. It seems to suggest to all the people out there that are confused and hungry for some kind of spiritual meaning life, that there is hope, and they're down here looking for it.
But when hundreds of people come in, thousands of people come in, how can you fit all these people in and out? That some of them just sensation seekers, and people are here for the kicks and not for any enlightenment, any meaning?
Well, I couldn't say why people are coming here for every person that's coming here, or that they're not all really after enlightenment. It's quite possible everybody that comes here is after enlightenment. They may be all be pilgrims. They may not manifest their search and articulate it as well as other people might, but that I think is the subconscious motive for coming. No, I think we'll just have a beautiful summer, man, with people playing drums in the park and turn on the city of San Francisco.
Many predict that there'll be no beautiful summer for the hippies of San Francisco, that the dreamy bohemia of Haight-Ashbury will be destroyed like the beat generation of the 50s by thrill-seekers, tourists, and commercial exploiters. The psychedelic love generation of the 60s may find that it takes more than new words and new drugs to conquer the old order.
that's it. That's about the size of it. We've seen the better or the worst of it, of the Haight-Ashbury district, and now back into Golden Gate Park, and our next stop will be the Japanese Tea Garden. The end of the Haight-Ashbury sojourn.